Corpus Hermeticum, Chapter 10. The Key. My yesterday's discourse I did devote to the Asclepius, and so it is only right I should devote today's one to Tot, and this the more, because it is an abridgment of the general sermon which he has had addressed to him. God, Father, and the Good, then Tot, all have the same nature, or more exactly, the same energy. For nature is a predicate of growth, and used of things that change, both mobile and immobile, that is to say, both human and divine, each one of which he willeth into being. But energy consists in something else, as we have shown in treating of the rest, both things divine and human things, which things we ought to have in mind when treating of the good. God's energy is then his will. Further, his essence is to will the being of all things. For what is God and Father and the Good, but the to be of all that are not yet, nay, subsistent self of everything that is? This then is God. This Father, this the Good, to him is added naught of all the rest. And though the cosmos, that is to say the sun, is also sire to those that share in him, yet so far is he not the cause of good unto the lives. He is not even of their living. So that even if he be a sire, he is entirely so by the compulsion of the good's good will, apart from which nor being nor becoming could ever be. Again, the parent is the children's cause, both on the father's and the mother's side, only by sharing in the good's desire that doth pour through the Son. It is the good which doeth the creating. And such a power can be possessed by no one else than him alone who taketh not, but wills all things to be. I will not say that he makes, for that the maker is defective for long periods, in which he sometimes makes, and sometimes doth not make, both in the quality and in the quantity of what he makes, in that he sometimes maketh them so many and such alike, and sometimes the reverse. But God and Father and the Good is the cause for all to be. So are at least these things for those who can see. For it doth will to be, and it is both itself, and most of all by reason of itself. Indeed, all other things beside are just because of it, for the distinctive feature of the good is that it should be known, and such is the good, O Tot. Thou hast, O Father, filled us so full of this so good and fair sight, that thereby my mind's eye hath now become for me almost a thing to worship. For that the vision of the good doth not, like the sun's beams, fire-like blaze on the eyes and make them close. Nay, on the contrary, it shineth forth and maketh to increase the seeing of the eye, as far as ever a man hath the capacity to hold the inflow of the radiance that the mind alone can see. Not only does it come more swiftly down to us, but it does us no harm, and is instinct with all immortal life. They who are able to drink in more of this sight than others, oftentimes from out of the body fall asleep into this fairest spectacle, as was the case with Uranus and Cronus, our forebears. May this be our lot too, O Father of mine. Yea, may it be, my son, but as it is, we are not yet strung to the vision, and not as of yet do we have the power in our mind's eye to unfold and gaze upon the beauty of the good, beauty that naught can ever corrupt or any comprehend. For only then wilt thou upon it gaze when thou canst say no word concerning it. For gnosis of the good is holy silence, and a giving holiday to every sense. For neither can he who perceiveth it, perceive aught else, nor he who gazeth on it gaze on aught else, nor hear aught else, nor stir his body any way, staying his body's every sense, and every motion he stayeth still, and shining them all around his mind. It shines through his whole soul, and it draws out of body, transforming all of him to essence. For it is possible, my son, that a man's soul should be made like to God's, even while it still is in a body, if it doth contemplate the beauty of the good. Made like to God, what dost thou, Father, mean? Of every soul apart are transformations, son. What meanest thou apart? Didst thou not, in the general sermons, hear that from one soul, the all-soul, come all of these souls which are made to revolve in all the cosmos, as though they were divided off? Of these souls, then, it is that there are many changes, some to a happier lot, and some to just the contrary of this. Thus some that were once creeping things change into things that in the water dwell. The soul of water things change to earth dwellers. Those that live on earth change into things with wings, and souls that live in air change into men. While humans who reach the first step of deathlessness are changed into daemons. And so they circle to the choir of the inerrant gods. For of the gods there are two choirs, the one inerrant, and the other errant, and this is the most perfect glory of the soul. But if a soul on entering in the body of a man persisteth in its vice, it neither tastes deathlessness nor shareth in the good, but speeding back again it turns into the path that leads to creeping things. This is the sentence of the vicious soul. And the soul's vice is ignorance. For that the soul who hath no knowledge of the things that are, or knowledge of their nature or of good, is blinded by the body's passions and tossed about. This wretched soul, not knowing what she is, becomes the slave of bodies of strange form and sorry plight, bearing the body as a load, not as the ruler, but the ruled. This ignorance is the soul's vice. But on the other hand, the virtue of the soul is gnosis. For he who knows, he good and pious is, and still, while on earth, divine. But who is such a one, O Father of mine? He who doth not say much, or lend his ear to much. For he who spendeth time in arguing and hearing arguments doth shadow fight. For God, the Father and the good, is not to be obtained by speech or hearing. And yet though this is so, there are in all beings senses, in that they cannot without senses be. But gnosis is far different from sense. For sense is brought about by that which hath the mastery over us, while gnosis is the end of science, and science is God's gift. All science is incorporeal, the instrument it uses being the mind, just as the mind employs the body. Both then come into bodies. I mean, both things that are cognizable by mind alone and things material. For all things must consist out of antithesis and contrariety, and this can otherwise not be. Who then is this material God of whom thou speakest? The cosmos is beautiful, but it is not good, for that it is material and freely passable. And though it is the first of all things passable, yet is it in the second rank of being and wanting in itself. And though it never hath itself its birth in time, but ever is, yet is its being in becoming, becoming for all time the genesis of qualities and quantities, for it is mobile, and all material motions genesis. It is intelligible rest that moves material motion in this way, since cosmos is a sphere, that is to say, a head, and not of heads above material, as not of feet below is intelligible, but all material, and head itself moved in a sphere-like way, that is to say, as head should move, is mind. All then that are united to the tissue of this head, in which is soul, are in their nature free from death. Just as body hath been made in soul, are things that have more soul than body. Whereas those things which are at greater distance from this tissue, there, where things which have a greater share of body than of soul, are by their nature subject to death. The whole, however, is a life, so that the universe consists of both the hylic and of the intelligible. Again, the cosmos is the first of living things, while man is second after it, though first of things subject to death. Man hath the same ensouling power in him as all the rest of living things. Yet is he not only not good, but even evil, for that he is subject unto death. For though the cosmos also is not good in that it suffers motion, it is not evil in that it is not subject unto death. But man, in that he is subject to both motion and death, is evil. Now then, the principles of man are this wise vehicled: mind in the reason, logos, the reason in the soul, soul in the spirit, and spirit in the body. Spirit pervading body by means of veins and arteries and blood, bestows upon the living creature motion, and as it were doth bear it in a way. For this cause some do think the soul is blood, in that they do mistake its nature, not knowing that at death it is the spirit that must first withdraw into the soul, whereon the blood congeals, and veins and arteries are emptied, and then the living creature is withdrawn, and this is the body's death. Now from one source all things depend, while source dependeth from the one and only one. Source is, moreover, moved to become source again, whereas the one standeth perpetually and is not moved. Three then are they: God, the Father, and the good, cosmos and man. God doth contain cosmos, cosmos containeth man. The cosmos is ever God's son, and man as it were the cosmos' child. Not that, however, God ignoreth man, nay, right well he know him, and willeth to be known by him. This is the sole salvation for a man, God's gnosis. This is the way up to the mountain. By him alone the soul becometh good, not whiles is good, whiles evil, but good out of necessity. What dost thou mean, thrice greatest one? Behold an infant soul, my son, that is not yet cut off, because its body is still small and not as yet come into its full bulk. How? A thing of beauty altogether is such a soul to see, not yet befouled by body's passions, still all but hanging from the cosmic soul. But when the body grows in bulk, and draweth down the soul into its mass, then doth the soul cut off itself, and bring upon itself forgetfulness, and no more shareth in the beautiful and good, and this forgetfulness becomes vice. It is the same for them who go out from the body. For when the soul withdraws into itself, the spirit doth contract itself within the blood, and the soul within the spirit, and then the mind, stripped of its wrappings and naturally divine, taking unto itself a fiery body, doth traverse every space, after abandoning the soul unto its judgment, and whatever chastisement it hath deserved. What dost thou, Father, mean by this? The mind is parted from the soul, and the soul from spirit, Whereas thou said the soul was the mind's vesture, and the soul's the spirit. The hearer, son, should think with him who speaks, and breathe with him. Nay, he should have a hearing subtler than the voice of him who speaks. It is, son, in a body made of earth that this arrangement of the vestures comes to pass. For in a body made of earth, it is impossible the mind should take its seat itself by its own self in nakedness. For neither is it possible, on the one hand, the earthly body should contain such immortality, nor on the other that so great a virtue should endure a body passible in such close contact with it. It taketh then the soul for, as it were, an envelope, and soul itself, being too a thing divine, doth use the spirit as its envelope, while spirit doth pervade the living creature. When then the mind doth free itself from the earth body, it straightway putteth on its proper robe of fire, with which it could not dwell in an earth body. For earth doth not bear fire, for it is all set in a blaze even by a small spark. And for this cause is water poured round earth, to be a guard and wall, to keep the blazing of the fire away. But mind, the swiftest thing of all divine outthinkings, and swifter than all elements, has for its body fire. For mind, being the builder, doth use the fire as a tool for the construction of all things, the mind of all for the construction of all things, but that of man only for things on earth. Stripped of its fire, the mind on earth cannot make things divine, for it is human in its dispensation. The soul in man, however, not every soul, but one that is pious, is a demonic something and divine. And such a soul, when from the body is freed, if it have fought the fight of piety, the fight of piety is to know God and to do wrong to no man, such soul becomes entirely mind, whereas the impious soul remains in its own essence, chastised by its own self, and seeking for an earthly body where to enter, if only it be human. For that no other body can contain a human soul, nor is it right that any human soul should fall into the body of a thing that doth possess no reason. For that the law of God is this, to guard the human soul from such tremendous outrage. How then, Father, is a man's soul chastised? What greater chastisement of any soul can there be, son, than lack of piety? What fire has so fierce flame as lack of piety? What ravenous beast so mauls the body as lack of piety the very soul? Dost thou not see what host of ills the impious soul doth bear? It shrieks and screams, I burn, I am ablaze. I know not what to cry or do. Wretched me, I am devoured by all the ills that compass me about. Alack, poor me, I neither see nor hear. Such are the cries wrung from a soul chastised, not as the many think, and thou, son, dost suppose, that a man's soul passing from body is changed into a beast. But such an idea is a very grave mistake, for that the way a soul doth suffer chastisement is this. When mind becomes a daemon, the law requires that it should take a fiery body to execute the services of God, and entering in the soul most impious, it scourgeth it with whips made of its sins. And then the impious soul, scourged with its sins, is plunged into murders, outrage, blasphemy, in violence of all kinds, and all the other things whereby mankind is wronged. But on the pious soul the mind doth mount and guide it to the gnosis light, and such a soul doth never tire in songs of praise to God, and pouring blessings on all men, and doing good in word and deed to all, in imitation of its sire. Wherefore, my son, thou should give praise to God, and pray that thou may have thy mind a good mind. It is then to a better state the soul doth pass, it cannot to a worse. Further, there is an intercourse of souls. Those of the gods have intercourse with those of men, and those of men with souls of creatures which possess no reason. The higher, further, have in charge the lower. The gods look after men, men after irrational animals, and while God hath charge of it all, for he is higher than them all, and all are less than he. The cosmos is subject then to God, man to the cosmos, and irrationals to man. But God is over all of them, and God contains all of them. God's rays, to use a figure of speech, are his energies. The cosmos are nature's, the arts and sciences are man's. The energies act through the cosmos, thence through the nature rays of cosmos upon man. The nature rays act through the elements, and man acteth through the sciences and arts. This is the dispensation of the universe, depending from the nature of the one, pervading all things through the mind, than which is not diviner or of greater energy, and not a greater means for the at-oneing men to gods, and gods to men. He, mind, is the good daemon. Blessed the soul that is most filled with him, and wretched is the soul that is empty of the mind. Father, what dost thou mean again? Do you think, son, that every soul has a good mind? For it is of him we speak, not of the mind in service of which we just were speaking, the mind sent down for the soul's chastisement. For soul without the mind can neither speak nor act, for oftentimes the mind doth leave the soul, and at that time the soul nor sees nor understands, but is just like a thing that hath no reason. Such is the power of mind. Yet doth it not endure a sluggish soul, but leaveth such a soul tied to the body and bound tight down by it. Such soul, my son, does not have mind, and therefore such a one should not be called a man, for that man is a thing of life divine. Man is not measured with the rest of lives of things upon the earth, but with the lives of things above in heaven, who are called gods. Nay, more, if we must boldly speak the true man is even higher than the gods, or at the very least, the gods and men are every whit in power each with the other equal. For no one of the gods in heaven shall come down on the earth, overstepping heaven's limit. Whereas man doth mount up to heaven and measure it, he knows what things of it are high, what things are low, and learns precisely all else things beside. And greater thing than all, without even quitting earth, he does ascend above. So vast a sweep doth he possess of ecstasy. For this cause can a man dare say that man on earth is God subject to death, while God in heaven is man from death immune. Wherefore, the dispensation of all things is brought about by means of these, the twain, cosmos and man, but by the one.